Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and today I have picked out some players that I think are so differential that they may be the keys to winning your mini leagues and closing the gaps on those ranks that you hope to achieve this season. Now, you're not going to like all of the players in this video today. If everyone liked these players, then everyone would own them, but they don't. They are differential players. They are players that not too many people are thinking about, and hopefully we can unleash some hidden gems in today's video. So, if you enjoy this one, please do leave a like. Do subscribe if you're new around here. Let's meet the super differential players for the final run-in this season. So my first player is going to be Diogo Dalot, who is 6.13% owned in the top 100k, and I've used the stats for ownership this video for the top 100,000 players. So they're not going to be overall numbers, they're going to be just the top players, how many of the top players own these players in Gameweek 34. So it won't be 100% accurate, but it will give you a really good idea of which are the super differentials at the top ranks, because I feel like if you're looking to win a mini league, probably the leaders of your mini league are going to be around, you know, top 100,000. I know a lot of people are aiming for that kind of rank as well. So these are going to be the key numbers here. So 6.13 in the top 100k for Dalot. Let me know if you like these numbers that I'm using. If you don't, then I'll switch back to the overall ownership rather than the top 100k ownership. But let me know about that one. Anyway, Dalot, I think, is a differential because he does pose a little bit of attacking threat. And with defenders, it's hard to get a differential because if people own players from the same defense, you're not really going to get any points over them. You know, if Luke Shaw is owned by a lot of people, he gets a clean sheet, then Dalot is going to be keeping a clean sheet at the same time. So the key difference we're looking for with the defenders is going for players who also have attacking threat. And Dalot's attacking numbers per 90 are actually a little bit better than Luke Shaw. So you have a little bit better chance of getting something over on those other people who own different Manchester United defenders, if they own Shaw or if they own De Gea, for example. And that, I think, is the key difference when looking for differential defenders. So overall here, guys, you can see that he's had 1 goal involvement, 0.6 expected goal involvements as well. Man United obviously keeping clean sheets, but that's not really what we're looking for in a differential, I guess. So yeah, overall, I think he's a really good pick. 4.7 million should be reasonably nailed on, but not 100%, and he's been doing really well recently. So yeah, I think it's a decent differential at 6.13% owned. Next up, Alvarez, who is the talk of the town. I spoke about him a little bit in our buy, sell, keep, avoid video this week, so I'll keep it fairly brief. But basically with Alvarez, he is that guy who is so good when he plays. And I think that's going to be a key theme among a lot of these players in this video, is that they do pose a little bit of risk, mainly with rotation. And Alvarez definitely fits into that category. We don't know for 100% if he's going to be starting, but hopefully we're going to get early Man City team news this week. And if Alvarez is playing because De Bruyne is still injured or Erling Haaland is being rotated and Alvarez gets a start, he could have a mega score against Leeds United, who have been so bad defensively over the last few weeks. They really have, and this could be an absolute cricket score. Man City could score 5 goals in this game, and you know if Alvarez is playing the majority of the minutes in that game, you know that he's going to be involved in some of those goals as well. So we've seen a little bit of flashes of brilliance when he has been playing. Pep Guardiola has already made comments that he wants to be able to play Alvarez alongside Erling Haaland and De Bruyne because he is that good. So let's see what he can do. I think he's a really nice differential with a little bit of risk there as well. Next up, Callum Wilson, who is the talk of the town this game week. Everyone is bringing him in right now, but certainly last game week, only 0.97% owned in the top 100k. So assuming not everyone brings him in, he's still going to be a real differential. And I'm sure a lot of people will be hesitant to bring him in ahead of Arsenal and maybe more tempted to bring him in ahead of the double game week versus Leeds and Brighton. But I still think he is a really nice pick to pick up against Arsenal, because Arsenal have been struggling defensively a little bit recently. And Wilson, per minute played, has been phenomenal. He's only played about 230 minutes in the last 5 game weeks, and yet he's got 5 goals and 1 assist with some pretty decent underlying numbers there as well. He'll be on penalties when Isak is on the pitch or not, so he's the main penalty taker there at Newcastle, and I just feel like he is that real differential player when everyone else is going for Isak or everyone else is kind of loaded up on triple Newcastle already and struggling to get Wilson in. You could have a key difference maker here, and if he continues the form that he's been in, then he's going to get some mega scores even if he doesn't play every minute. So So particularly in against Arsenal, he's had a little bit of a rest, so he is going to be available to start against Arsenal, hopefully. In Game Week 36, we may see, a decent amount of minutes just because there's multiple fixtures. And Leicester and Chelsea aren't exactly bad fixtures right now either. So overall, I think Wilson could be in for some more goals as long as you don't mind a limited amount of minutes and trust that when he is on the pitch, when he's getting subbed on or when he starts and gets substituted early, he's still going to get you decent FPL returns. Joelinton is another interesting one. So he's been playing in central midfield whilst Longstaff has been injured, but we could see Joelinton return to the left wing very soon as well, which is going to mix things up with Isak and Wilson. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play out really, but Joelinton, 4 attacking contributions in the last 5 game weeks, which is pretty insane really. His underlying numbers aren't amazing. In fact, Joe Willock's are actually slightly better, but I feel like we trust Joelinton a little bit more in these attacking games. And Newcastle, because they're scoring so many goals, if they continue to score 4-5 goals per game, you know that Joelinton is going to be involved in some of these, making assists, taking shots on himself. He is one of the more attacking players in this team, and he does seem to be reasonably nailed on, which I think is a difference between Joelinton and some of the other players in this list. He is a player who will play pretty much every single game when he's available. So I feel like he is a really, really good pick in really good form, super low ownership and 0.555% owned in the top 100k. That is insanely low, and I still feel like he could do the business, gets extra points for goals compared to the forwards like Isak and Wilson. So again, a little bit of a differential there. Danny Welbeck is a really interesting one because actually right now his numbers per 90 are better than the likes of Solly March, they're better than Mitoma, they're better than McAllister, they're better than Enciso, everyone else. Welbeck has the best underlying numbers per 90 for Brighton right now, and he is looking like the most likely player to get attacking returns whenever he is on the pitch. The problem is he's not always on the pitch, and we have seen reduced minutes from him. He often doesn't even make 60 minutes when he does start for Brighton, and he does often make appearances, and sometimes he doesn't feature at all, but he is going to be available going forward. We're not quite sure if Evan Ferguson is going to be available for the Everton game or not, and Ciso can maybe play as a striker as well, so it's a little bit up in the air at the moment how many minutes Welbeck is going to get. But again, when he is on the pitch, he is the primary attacking threat, and when you look at all of these games that Brighton have, double game week in 36, double game week in 37, you know that he's at least going to get some minutes, and when he is on the pitch, he's going to be very, very dangerous for Brighton as well. So overall, I feel like, yes, this is a real risky differential, but it's a kind of an underrated Brighton asset in many ways that people are kind of ignoring because of the minutes risk. If you can kind of get lucky with your minutes with Welbeck and he's scoring at the same time as he's on the pitch, I guess, then yeah, he's going to make a real difference to your team and kind of rocket you above some of your rivals. Anthony is very controversial, and you can see, guys, we are getting to the more and more differential players because Anthony is only 0.17% owned in the top 100k. Now, that is seriously low. That's kind of 2 players in, well, 2 players in 1,000 pretty much. 2 players in 1,000 players own Anthony, which is, it's just nobody has him. Nobody has him. But actually, when you watch Manchester United recently, Anthony has actually been getting a reasonable amount of good chances to score recently, which is pretty impressive, to be fair. 1 goal and 1 assist is not amazing. It's decent enough, but it's not amazing. But if you can't afford Bruno Fernandes, if you want to go in on the double Manchester United attack instead of, the double defense, you can't afford Fernandes, maybe Anthony is an answer for you there. Maybe he is a solution for you there. And if you get lucky with him, things could go very, very well indeed, because he does seem to be finding himself in a lot of real key goal scoring positions, which is very good indeed when you're looking for players in FPL. The penultimate differential before we go through some honourable mentions, and it's going to be Morgan Gibbs-White, who doesn't have double game weeks, which is a little bit of a downside for him, I guess, but I still think he is worth thinking about if you really do want to go really differential. So Nottingham Forest really fighting for their lives, fighting for survival in the Premier League, so there's a lot to play for them. They play against Southampton at home next. We know how bad Southampton have been. They play Chelsea after that. We know how bad Chelsea have been. Arsenal after that, they can't defend, and then Crystal Palace in the final game week. So yes, it's a bit of an interesting one. It's very, very differential, but at the end of the day, he has got a lot of attacking contributions over the last 5 games, and it does seem like he is the primary attacking threat for Nottingham Forest. So if Nottingham Forest are going to score goals, it's very likely that Gibbs-White is going to be involved in them. So yeah, I think a little bit underrated, a little bit underappreciated. His numbers are actually pretty decent, especially for a 5.5 million midfielder. Might be difficult to fit him in alongside, your Brighton guys and your Manchester United guys and this, that, and the other. But at the same time, I feel like this is actually a pretty decent differential that has already gone right over the last 5 game weeks, and that could continue because Nottingham Forest need to score goals, they need to win games, they need to survive in the Premier League, and Gibbs White is the key to that. And finally, I know you guys are going to absolutely hate this one, but I'm going to put in Perisic here. Like I say, it's very difficult to pick out differential defenders because, you know, if we're talking about defenders from the key teams, everyone already owns a defender from them, so you're covered for clean sheets. So really, we're looking for defenders with decent attacking output. And recently, there's been no one better than Perisic. So if you think Spurs can potentially turn around their defensive form, I wouldn't bet on it, but hey, if you think that that's something that's possible, Perisic is certainly putting up some insane attacking numbers. So 3 goal involvements over the last 5 game weeks. That's 3 assists there. XG or XGI of 2.75. He has been taking shots as well and generating a little bit of expected goals as well. He's been super attacking recently, taking shots on, making key passes, and it seems like he may be the second biggest attacking threat in this Spurs team after Harry Kane, maybe alongside Heung-min Son. So Perisic, yeah, really decent attacking numbers. Crystal Palace up next. They're not a team that scores too many goals, so maybe if Spurs can finally lock down their defence, finally, we could see some real big performances from Perisic for the remainder of the season. I think he is an interesting differential, if nothing else, but I understand that if people are a little bit put off by Spurs defence in general, but really with the differentials, we're looking for attacking returns. We know how many points defenders get when they score goals. Perisic is a key candidate for a goal-scoring defender for the final 4 game weeks of the season. Honourable mentions now, guys. So we have got a few more players that I do think are worth talking about. Maybe not super differential, some of these players, but they do have a little bit of low ownership in the top 100k, which means they could be the kind of players who do make a difference between you and maybe the person who's winning your mini league right now, who you really want to beat. So yeah, McAllister, 20% out of the big Brighton players outside of Welbeck, I guess. McAllister is the lowest owned player there with 20% ownership. John Stone's still only 17%, so maybe you could go in on him. Harry Kane has been dropping rapidly recently. A lot of people sold him last game week, including myself. So he's actually going to be a bit of a differential for the remainder of the season. And when you get a player like Harry Kane, who is a differential, not a super differential, but a little bit of a differential, that's still going to be really nice for you. So Harry Kane definitely worth a shout in this video, but I didn't want to put him in the main 8 just because 14% is not like super low. It's low, but it's not super low. But for the player who he is, I think it is super low. Tony, a lot of people have sold him recently as well. Solanke has a surprisingly low ownership at 4%. And we've got a Mahrez here. Maybe I'll add Foden to this conversation. If you want to go take a risk on Man City, get early team news and see that Mahrez or Foden are playing for Manchester City against Leeds, then you appreciate that could be a really big score. And maybe Mahrez and Foden are going to be involved. Mahrez should be on penalties if Erling Haaland isn't on the pitch as well. So that's something to consider there. Martinez, bit of a differential goalkeeper, not many people going for him. Moreno, decent attacking output, but really only 1 good fixture for the defenders for Aston Villa. So yeah, it could be interesting. Let's see what happens there. Willock, I kind of mentioned before, and I've put Billing here as well if you want to go on a midfielder from Bournemouth, and Porro, who is, you know, so super low owned that maybe I've just put him on there for the sake of it, to be honest. But he still does have a little bit of attacking output comparable to Perisic, I suppose, but on the other side of the pitch. But again, we are going to be dependent on maybe some clean sheet points from Spurs as well to maybe get us through with our Spurs defenders. But those are your honourable mentions. I think they're all well worth considering as kind of slightly lesser differentials for the final few game weeks of the season. Thanks for watching, guys, and I want you to tell me how many of these players would you consider for your team. I know you're going to hate a lot of them, but are there any of them that you actually kind of like, that you actually kind of appreciate? And are there any other players that you think are differentials that could be really good that we could take through to the end of the season? And one more thing I want to know from you guys is, are you winning your mini league or are you chasing your mini league? I want to know that. Are you guys looking to beat someone or are you looking to protect against someone? Because that's really going to change a lot of things about the kind of content I make in the future. But guys, if you did enjoy this one, please do leave a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. That's it from me today. 100 experts coming up next. But until then, thank you very much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.